Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Legal Helm, where we dive into the latest trends, challenges, and innovations in the legal tech space. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Prav Gudipalli, Director of Quality Assurance at Nikao, a company that has implemented cutting-edge wealth platforms for major financial institutions, successfully migrating billions in assets and hundreds of thousands of client accounts with minimal disruption. Prav is an ISTQB certified test manager with over a decade of experience in financial technology, specializing in platform quality engineering and wealth management systems. He has led enterprise-scale migrations and built testing frameworks for investment platforms, enhancing operational efficiency and driving revenue growth. In today's episode, we will explore how automation and AI are transforming quality assurance in financial services, tackling key challenges and looking to the future of testing. So let's get into it. Prav, welcome to the Legal Helm.
Nice to see you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here. So I thought we'd just start with a little introduction. So maybe you could tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your background, and the journey that led you to your current role at Nikao.
All right. Yeah. So I would start with how I ended up here being in Nikao. After my bachelor's in computers, and then I've done my master's in computers, again, applied informatics, which has got advanced programming languages as one of its cores, usability methods. And you can ask me a question here, why did you end up in testing when you've done lots of programming courses in your bachelor's and master's? I've got 15 years of experience, more than 15 years of experience. And all this experience is in financial service organization, because I've myself, I've got lots of investments across the board, and then I got lots of interest in playing with the money as well. When I was working as a junior developer, I worked closely with this testers at the same time and the same team. I realized these testers coming from the business and trying to learn the testing techniques, they can only see the UI side of things and they can find defects, but they kind of lagging what's going to happen in the back end. I find it very fascinating because when they create a defect, I can clearly see the logics behind it. And I used to do my own analysis, and because I'm a junior developer, I don't fix the code straight away. I take it through the senior developers and give them lots of information how to fix this bug. That sort of thing kind of fascinated me, and then I've got a role as a test analyst on the same team because I just want to progress in my career as well. Luckily, the projects were not been kicked off yet, and I've got somewhere around 3 months of time to go through lots of internal training that they were giving to all the employees that were joining there. So this is where I was being trained into a financial services organization, assuming that I was a kind of a BAU person, and I've joined with the BAU guys, and I've acquired lots of knowledge in these trainings. That is my starting point in financial services. So I've got lots of knowledge, in early stage of my career, and then I've done my test analyst position. Then later on, I became a test lead, and then test manager, senior test manager. Now, luckily, I've got an opportunity at Nikao to become a QA director.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like you've been on a very interesting journey, and I like the fact that you've got that kind of mix of the core development aspect of it and what can happen at that point, and then how you translate that into a quality delivery, right, at the end of it. So that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Great. So in the financial services space, you've obviously worked quite extensively on platform engineering, quality engineering, and these wealth management systems. What would you say are some of the big QA challenges that financial institutions face today?
If you're talking about financial services, which I've got experience in wealth management sector, this is where we were offering different investment products to the clients, as part of our investment platform, SEP, where you actually store your pension pot and start investing it from there. Also, ISAs, GAAs, like general investment accounts. This financial service products are FCA regulated. That makes the financial service complicated, because we're always dealing with the client's monies, and there are lots of compliance and regulation. And then, at the same time, we have to prove that, whatever the platforms that we build has got high performance and scalability. And obviously security is the key. And also we need to make sure that we look after clients' data, as per the GDPR compliance. There are lots of challenges that financial service testing faces in this way, where these are non-negotiable. We have to make sure that our platforms that we deliver are performing current the FCA standards.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few parallels actually between the financial services space and legal space actually, because in a very similar fashion, there's a lot of focus on client accounts and managing client account information and a lot of the data security pieces, which I think are at the forefront of everyone's mind at the moment. So it's interesting to hear the kind of parallels between the financial space and the legal space.
Yeah, both are kind of customer-centric platforms, isn't it? Customer-centric business. Like, at the end of the day, we need to look after customers and the data and the transactions, and we need to provide them like kind of a smooth journey when they are interacting to one of our applications. We don't have space for rounding errors, right? And we have to calculate these investments into 8 decimal places. These are the scenarios that we go through daily. We need to make sure we understand the product, we understand the regulations of that product. As a QA, we need to make sure we've done enough research on the product that we were testing on.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. So just to kind of dive into some of the kind of testing processes and some of the technology pieces that are involved. So if you look at the way software testing has kind of changed over the years, obviously there's a big focus on automation and how things have transitioned from being, lots of people testing various test scripts and being people driven to being automation driven. How have you seen that evolve in the financial services space, and what do you think the biggest impacts have been from automation?
So, in terms of financial services, we have to generate lots of scenarios and lots of transactions, because that's what happened in production. So for me, with the team of 10 at the time, it's really hard to create that volume of scenarios. So that's where we actually implemented automation. This is back in 2010, 11, where we were talking about, Java with Selenium, and then we've created automation framework mainly to reduce the risk of volume. So we've created this automation to create lots of data that can test most of this, volumized scenarios, and where my manual team just focuses on the business logic implementation and the key scenarios where we end risk of defects. Our previous projects I want to mention about as well, where we actually followed the BDD approach. We only have 2 weeks to implement this project, this change into production. So in 2 weeks, we have to perform all the, system regression and then into production. This is where we got the automation, to take the risk-based approach. Instead of conducting this full 2 week, we used automation. We conducted 1 week automation regression, make sure that starting, we triggered our regression suite. We've got confidence on our production code. We in fact completed that in, I would say, 8 days rather than 10 days is our plan. This is where I'm kind of showcasing how automation can help us, and that we successfully implemented that project. And then later on, I've got that budget to increase automation into CI/CD pipelines.
Well, what about the role of data? I think you kind of mentioned some of the things to consider are the fact that we're dealing with client data, right? And some of it's obviously highly sensitive data as well.
With financial services, data security is key. We are compliant to GDPR regulations. So what we do is we anonymize all the client's information. So as part of testing, what we've done is we've got some scripts ready where we have to go and anonymize client name, address, bank details, contact information. So these scripts will be run overnight, and then we anonymize that data. Recent days, we were actually taking the help of AI. What we've done is recent times we've used the fakers, the Panda fakers, to actually anonymize the entire platform with the sensible data which is also a fake data. That's one part of anonymizing the client's information across the system. The other part is we were also generating the new, and whatever the data that we input to the automation suite is also a kind of fake data, but it has got business logic implemented in it. So we are using AI to automate all this process of data creation and then inputting it into our automation suite. So that I've seen massive benefits and data creation through AI. We haven't used any premium applications out there, but then later on I found out there are premium AI powered tools like Functionize and then Test Sigma. They're very helpful, but they are also expensive. What we have done is we've used Playwright. We developed some really good AI-based frameworks where it takes on the minimum efforts in terms of coding. And also, once we deploy this AI in production, this AI system is learning the way we are conducting the test cycle. It's more like AI is giving me information where I can customize the testing suite where, yes, you run these as first priority, and then all the reusable test cases, all the regular test cases, run them as a second priority, and then it just goes runs and provides the reports then and there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an exciting time, right? With all of the AI technology being applied to various technology use cases, but the one you've just given is a really, really good one. Are there other use cases that you're seeing or you see in the future in terms of how AI will improve any of the QA processes?
Yeah, sure, Ben. As I was mentioning, especially these financial service, it's got lots of regulations. As an user, you have to have that knowledge and capability of handling these products. We've got different roles like advisors, clients, fund managers, where advisors and fund managers, they get commission paid on the advices that were being given to the clients. And also we've got that responsibility where we need to declare what are the future charges that you'll be paying on this investment. So clients are demanding lots of information these days. Before it was like, we just generated, a terms and conditions document or a declaration document where it lists all the charges and everything. But it's not like that. Clients are now following up because they've got AI tools in their hand. They clearly understand, what would be their growth rate. Is the growth rate for not persons, 0.3% or 4%. So it's important to make use of all these AI services out there. There are some really good LLMs where we can actually host them in-house, isolate to our Azure cloud or our cloud, and then make use of that LLM services and then calculate all these charges to the fractional points every time when the report gets generated to the client. Some other sector where they've got lots of priority on the user interface and then the graphics that were displaying on the screens, there are definitely AI tools out there. But now I'm talking about the accuracy of information, which has got lots of business logic in it in terms of the products, in terms of the hierarchy of company, how it's operating.
What about some of the challenges that AI presents, right? Because I think while we can see like there's so many benefits, so many positive things that we can get from leveraging AI.
So, as soon as this AI buzzword started, there are so many companies, like not just OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, recently the DeepSeek, there are people coming up with lots of different AI versions. At the end of the day, as humans, quality analysts, we are the drivers. You need to be in a position to understand what was the information that's been provided by AIs and how it can be useful and how we can incorporate into our framework. So you are the owner of the test automation framework or an application. So you should be deciding which AI to use or which information to be used into your systems. If you don't have that knowledge and grip on your framework, you'll be confused and you'll be lost.
One of the things that we see as quite a common challenge in the kind of realms of testing is that you have a firm that will typically take an approach of basically leveraging different best of breed business systems, right? So they may have a finance system provided by one party, and then that needs to be connected to a case management system, to a HR system, and various other downstream and upstream systems that all share commonality. How you make sure that tests are relevant from start to end of a process flow, right?
See, that's how I work since the beginning. As part of financial service systems, we integrate with lots of other parties to do due diligence checks, AML checks, bank account checks, and all that stuff. The way that I approach is we have to stick to end to end. this is like, you need to ensure like whatever the journey, you can't just go and say, yeah, my client is onboarded and then that's it, my journey is finished. No, it's not finished. It's not like that. How the client is onboarded, is the results being recorded properly? What are the transactions that were came through? Are you able to complete the transactions? Because, when the client is on board, when we talk about financial services, we do the due diligence checks like AML check, bank account check. Whether have you got the results? Has it been vetted? These are the small details we have to incorporate on every scenario that we were developing. And then we need to ensure, yes, the integration is happened on onboarding correctly. We have to concentrate that as much as possible, because if you don't get the response from the API that you're requesting, that will cost millions.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And you touched on another important point, which is the concept of API testing versus UI testing, right? And UI automation. What's the right balance there, right?
So it depends on which phase of testing that we were in. Like, in terms of system testing, if I'm a test manager, if I'm leading that project, I would test the APIs on a standalone. I'll use the automation we have got in place where we will just give the XML request format to my automation tool. It just takes it and it gives you lots of requests. We just input those requests to whatever, like a Postman or SOAP UI that we use. And then we stress test it in the system testing phase. When it comes to UAT testing or further down system integration testing, that's where we have to combine both UI and the API testing, because that's where the integration happens, right? So that's where the test cases has to be end to end. Obviously, people who will be working on these two areas will have that knowledge of how to test via UI, how to test via API. So they know what is the business behind it. Then when it comes to the integration, that's where we make sure that, everybody's spread across all the scenarios end to end. It's their responsibility that, whenever we send a request to API, getting a response, valid response, then move on to the next step. That's how we will integrate.
And so with the way a lot of businesses are evolving now in terms of moving away from having a lot of physical on-prem infrastructure and moving into hybrid or cloud solutions or SaaS delivered solutions, does that add a level of complexity in terms of some of the considerations around testing?
If you're talking about testing point of view, that's a kind of a good situation for us, like, right? We want to find defects. When there is an integration break, we would just, being a test manager, what I would suggest to do is like, we learn it from the experience. I know my automation framework is telling me this is the key risk scenario where the SaaS providers are different in different locations. You just go and test this one first. And I will say, yeah, just go and test it for tonight. And then it goes and tests and, there could be some results, which were coming as like not responding in terms of API. And I will get the result and I will escalate it as quickly as possible. So, these integrations happen. Like the errors in integration happens, when you talk about development point and implementation point of view. But according to the QA team, we need to be there first to identify the issue as early as possible and to address it. And as a test manager, it's my responsibility that everybody understands what was the root cause and how can it be fixed. And before triggering any new releases, this is the notes I'm giving to the implementation team to make sure that all these different SaaS providers are responding when you're deploying things. So that's how we have to mitigate these issues.
So with all of the kind of tooling and maybe some investment that's needed in terms of the AI solutions that you could either get off the shelf or build in-house from a framework perspective, how do you then tie that to measures of success, right? So you've got a strategy to go and implement and go and maybe buy a solution or go and build a solution in-house to be able to automate some of your testing. Are there any key like metrics or KPIs that you typically recommend focusing on to ensure that you're getting value from the investment that's being made?
Yeah, if you ask me, I wouldn't just go and recommend any product out there without looking at the system. But first, you need to look at the system, identify the pain points or inefficiencies, and then gradually we just going to introduce AI into the system. Start with small AI enhancements where I was talking about self-healing test scripts, right? Like, some of, we just need to understand how these automation test cases are failing. They could be failing because, some of the UI element is moved and then the automation test is failing. That is going to cause lots of headache for the testers, not repeating the test again, identifying it slightly moved, and then conveying that to the developer, where the developer or analyst might reject it, just say because it's just slightly moved. So we need to implement self-healing techniques. I would demonstrate how AI is adding in terms of time and efficiencies, and then slowly at the same time, if we are dealing with a team, we need to upgrade the skills of the team as well to incorporate AI. These guys need to be upskilled or trained to understand what they were getting it from the AI, and then incorporate it into the framework so that they'll be in full control end to end whenever their test automation fails.
And if you look ahead, I think you touched on some of the kind of AI things that are either in progress now or coming down the pipe. How do you see things evolving over, let's say, the next 5 years from a QA in financial services perspective, and the things that firms and teams should be thinking about in terms of how they prepare for that?
So today in test automation is low code, no code automation platforms, but there are some firms out there which cannot afford the high premiums that were being charged by these no code, low code platforms. At the same time, they want to use AI. There are lots of open source tools available out there, like Appy tools, Helium. I was trying to build this framework using Playwright, and all these, open source AI tools, and also having them in-house, because at the same time, we have to protect the data security. We have to keep in mind about the GDPR compliance. We can't just leak the data. Not all the financial services clients might opt for this premium technology out there. But instead, they might be interested into, Playwright AI automation, and there is a massive community who will be helping in terms of any challenges that were being faced in the AI, where we can just keep continuously learning about these advancements and then, adapt them into the AI. In the next 5 years, I would say we will be using AI to give confidence to the client and develop some business applications. This production logs might, the backlogs of production log issues might just reduce, and then the efficiency, the speed of the releases into production will increase.
It's an exciting look into the future, Prav. Exciting look into the future. Yeah. So I'm just going to move to some fun wrap-up questions, if I may. The first of which being, if you could borrow Doctor Who's time machine and go back to yourself at 18 years old, what advice would you give yourself?
When I'm 18 years old, I was purely academics. I was into, how do I get job? How do I get, nice opportunity or role development and all that stuff. But I've never looked into the future. I would suggest, some of viewers who are young, to look into the future as well. There are lots of documentaries out there. For example, we were talking about electric cars today, and then there's another stream that was going on hydrogen cars. This hydrogen is coming from the green source. There's some other technologies out there which were in an early stage not today, but they might evolve in future as a game player or game changer. So I would also take a pause. Look what's happening out there, not just the academics, not just the role that you are in, and then try to understand and try to spend some time on it, like half an hour a week, just to see what's going on with it, what is the progress about it, and is there anything that you can learn from it, and just keep updating yourself.
Yeah, no, that's very good advice. Very good advice indeed. And then final question, what's the favorite holiday destination that you've been to that you would recommend people go visit?
I would say Rome. I've seen so many movies, obviously series, about Roman history and all that stuff. I've got some picture how Rome could be, but when I've actually visited Rome, I was so surprised, going through those Roman streets. Every inch of Rome is more like there is a cathedral. Like there's so many cathedrals in one street itself. So I was very surprised, that it has got a rich heritage, and history in Rome. So I would That's my favorite holiday destination. I would go back there again and again.
Excellent. No, good recommendation. Good recommendation. Well, Prav, that brings us to the end of our podcast. I want to thank you very much for joining us today. It was very insightful and really good tips shared for anyone interested in the testing space. So I really appreciate you spending time with me today.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Legal Helm. Thank you as always for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us out.